Today we're going to make a Halloween skull. Just decorative. We'll make it out of plaster. This is a mold that I made last year, not for Halloween, but to make a wax skull, which I have plans for and haven't gotten around to doing it yet. I've made a few replicas of the skull. I don't know where they are right now, so otherwise I'd show them to you, but one was just a resin shell where I poured the resin in here and just kind of sloshed it around and made sure I covered the whole thing. I did that a couple of times, made a shell. Then another one was a foam one, which I also made a resin shell on the outside, then filled it with expanding foam, not like hardware store foam, but specifically it's called Foam It. And you mix two parts together and pour it in there, and it expands into, the mold and fills all the nooks and crannies. That worked really well. You see it's getting tore here, so I gotta be careful. I made this by coating the skull with silicone rubber. This is that smooth on product. The foam was also smooth on. There's some of the foam right there, I think. No, that's silicone. But you just smear it all over your skull or whatever you're making a copy of, and then when you're done, this is plastic stuff that comes in two parts. You mix it together and you press it on the outside of the mold. You do that before you remove the skull, and it holds the mold in place, and it keeps the silicone from expanding out. And it's been so long since I used this, I think it's starting to shrink, I don't know. But anyway, you put it together like that, fill it with plaster, voila, skull. Now if you notice, that's just the skull, not the jaw. This is the mold for the jaw. It's just a hunk of rubber, hunk of silicone, and you just fill it with plaster, and you have to be careful getting it out. But yeah, that makes the plaster jaw. And what I want to do is make the jaw and the skull, put them together, fill it in where it needs to be filled in, and then create one solid skull that I can make a mold of maybe later to pour the solid skull instead of the two-part skull out of plaster. So let me get the mold ready, and then I'll mix up some plaster. Okay, so today we're going to be using this pretty little Gladware bowl, actually Rubbermaid bowl, and this sophisticated plaster mixer. I use it to mix plaster for my molds. I'm using Plaster Paris. It comes in a 25-pound bag for like $15–16 at Lowe's. You can buy the little quart-sized boxes. They're like $8 a piece, but for twice the money you get 10 times the amount. So yeah, in Plaster Paris it's up quick, so you kind of have to have an idea about how much you need. I don't think there's any expansion to it. If anything, it shrinks. So we're just going to start with 3 cups. See how far that gets us. I'm inclined to think that might be too much, but you know what? Better to have too much than not enough. Okay, we got some water here. Let's get the mixer ready. Looks like we got a little red stuff in here. Don't really matter, but we'll get it out anyway. I don't know how fast this is going to set up, so we're going to go ahead and scoop this in and put it into the mold. so that it doesn't harden up on us. I think it's already starting to set. Do the face, kind of slosh it around on the face, get the air bubbles out. You can also do a hollow cast with this if you wanted to. Just pour some plaster and then slosh it around until it coats the inside. Let that set up and do another coat or two. I think we're going to need more plaster. Okay, we'll do another cut real quick. In case you didn't know, plaster of Paris cures by heating up, so it's going to get a little warm. It's starting to set up now. I still need more. Alright, that's about 7 cups of plaster. Next time I want to keep that in mind. If you're worried about the area you're working in, you might want to put some paper out. Probably wouldn't hurt to do this outside. It's a bit dusty. We'll set that there. Vibrate a little bit. Now we're going to try. I know it ain't going to work yet. This is it'll be difficult to put some plaster in this jaw. Put it in that side. Try to get enough in all the holes. Get it all the way down. A little bit more right there. We'll wipe all the extra off. Messy, messy, messy. Alright, we're going to let that set up and be back in about an hour. Probably won't take that long, but I'm going to give it an hour. I'm scared to touch that. Ooh, this mold is warm. Feel the heat through the outside of the shell. It's solid. Don't mean it's solid all the way through, does it? Could be. Get the rubber band off. Rubber band. I use packing tape to hold it shut, and it wouldn't stick to the silicone, but it'd stick to the shell. And everything else, including my fingers. Ooh, he's warm, very warm. Keep you warm in the winter. The Let's hope we can get very many air bubbles here. Messy, messy, messy. Break that off. Ooh, it's sweaty. Oh shit, what am I doing here? I think I crushed the jaw. Oh, pretty good detail on the back. Pull the eyeballs out. Yeah, we broke the jaw. Well, there's the face. See if we can salvage that jaw. No. Actually, I think it was just the teeth. Oh, look at it. I think I had an air pocket in there. There, air pocket. I could probably just pour some plaster in that part of the mold and remake the teeth. Yeah, see? There are the teeth. I got one in there somewhere. Yeah. I have no clue. But I had a big air bubble right there, so we can see the jaw. The nose was here, and that much of the jaw didn't actually form because I had an air bubble. So I'm going to fill that portion of the mold with some silicone and see if I can remake that. The only air bubble I really see is right there. Some wax residue. Maybe one there. That's heavy. It's hot too. It's heavy. Gone ahead and fixed the upper jaw on this one. I re-poured the front jaw, and I actually had to re-pour the whole face because I didn't realize the whole upper jaw was missing on the skull. And as you can see, it doesn't really look like a real skull. It just looks like a cartoon skull, something from Scooby-Doo. I drilled a couple of holes here and put some plastic pins in and glued it with Elmer's glue. I'll probably fill that in and clean it up a little bit with the Dremel, make it look good. Maybe slap a coat of, probably use some Hodge Podge on it first to seal it up and then paint it. You see it's still crumbling right there. Plaster ain't the best thing in the world to use for this, but if I make a good mold, I can make concrete skulls as well. So I need to find a different skull to make a rubber mold from. And when I go through that process of making the new mold, I'm going to shoot a video on that so you guys can see how I do that. But yeah, that's pretty heavy. That's probably 7-8 pounds easy, if not 10. And once I fill that in, I'm going to clean it up. Alright, so I wanted to show you a few skulls that I've made. Y'all probably seen the video where I made this skull. In the jawbone, I had to repair the jawbone. Somebody pulled themselves to move it in the box and cracked it, but it'll be alright. I just melted it back together and it goes on there like that. He ain't the prettiest fella in the world. He got a bad overbite, underbite. Also was explaining earlier about how you make a roto casting and make a hollow skull. This isn't the original. This is one I made, as you can see right here. That's where my mold splits. And what you do is you take the resin, you stick it in the mold, and you roll it around. And you keep rolling it around until it sets up and it coats the inside of the mold. After a few minutes of doing that, you add more to it to build up the shell. Otherwise it might be too thin, you know. You do it again and you get this. I have this other stuff here. It's a 2-part foam. It's a foamate tin, and what you do is you mix this together in equal amounts, stir it up really good, pour it into the mold, and it expands. I could pour it straight into here and it would fill up. You can do this without plastic cake coating it once or twice, but then the foam, as you know, foam has holes in it, has air holes, so they would show up on the outside. You can still coat it with Mod Podge and paint it and all that good stuff if you wanted, and it would probably work out well, but you know, it's just more work sometimes to do it that way. I also have a little bit of resin here somewhere. Okay, this is called Magic Cast. It's resin made by raw material suppliers. I probably got enough here to do a skull. So I think I'm going to try and use this and the foamate to make a skull. This stuff is old, so I don't know how well it's going to work. I'm going to have to find some disposable cups to mix this in, because you don't want to do this in a cup you're going to reuse. But let me find some disposable cups and I will make you a mold or two. Now this stuff here is low grade. You can get smooth on. Different brands. Captain Jerk uses clear cast from a dealer off of eBay. I got this off of eBay too. This has been sitting in the shop for about 6 months, so I have no clue how it's going to turn out, but we'll give it a shot. Okay, let's see, we want to try and get equal amounts of each one. I already got the skull ready to put the plastic in, so let's see what we got going on here. I hope this takes, because it is lumpy. It's probably enough. There's always a part A and a part B, and one's a hardener and one's the material. I think A must be the hardener and B must be the material. Alright, it's about equal. I don't know if you can tell. Grab a popsicle stick or two over here. And generally what you do is you pour the thicker one into the thinner one and go from there. As soon as you put it in there, the catalysm starts working, or whatever they call it. And generally you want to mix this for a minute or two, but this stuff sets up pretty quick, so you gotta be careful if it's gonna work. I don't know if this stuff is gonna work. Try and scrape the sides, but this is a ridged side cup. You really want something smooth, like a solo cup or something. Yeah, I can feel it warming up now, so we're gonna stop right there. Pour it in the skull. You want to just take the skull, you want to roll it around and try and get it to the edges without spilling it out. Which is a pain. That stuff is foaming up. It ain't supposed to foam up. It's called roto casting. They actually have a machine that does this. It will flip flop and twist and go round and round. Well, it just went full goopy on me in there. I don't know if I got the whole thing covered or not. It's pretty sticky. We'll let that sit up, and I'm going to get 2 more cups and mix up the foam, and we'll pour the foam in. Be right back. Alright, I've already got the foam separated out. This is the hardener, catalyst, whatever you want to call it. Part A, Part B. I don't know why the Part A catalyst always gets crusty and hard. But here we go. We're going to pour this in here, mix it up real quick, put it in the skull, slosh it around, because we want to make sure that it gets everywhere so that it'll fill all the voids. I'm using my favorite soda bottle, Coke Zero. Because this is sold, we're going to rush it. I can tell that was not mixed well. That's alright. I had to use the stuff before it went bad anyway. I mean, use it for something. I'm going to try and get it in the eyes and the mouth. Get the detail. Roll it back behind where the plastic got hard. Fill that void. Okay, we're just gonna let that sit there and expand, and when we'll give it about 10 to 15 minutes, because that's usually about how long it takes. It might go out the top too, so I've had that happen. So I'm gonna leave it, and you can watch it. Says it will expand up to 6 times the volume you add. So you could probably see how much water your mold holds and divide that by 6, and that'll probably be how much you need. Alright, well, I'm going to let that cure because it looks like it's about done expanding. So we'll let it cure and get hard. It's already started to get hard. We'll let it cure up for about 20-30 minutes, and then we'll demold it. So we'll be back. Okie dokie, it's been about 40 minutes. Foam's hard as a rock, and it don't come off easy. So we're gonna have to finagle this bad boy. Start by taking the bubber bands off. See if we can get this mold apart. No, we're gonna have to break this off. Break out the big gun here. It's like cracking a coconut. Yeah. That's the way to do an autopsy. He died of a broken neck. Alright. Battery went dead there, so we back. Here's all the extra foam that came off of it. Probably get a serrated knife. This one ain't gonna work too well, but it pulled some plaster and some wax off the outside of the mold. There we go. And you can clean it up with a Dremel, grinder, whatever you want. But it has a hard plastic shell, nice and smooth. You can see what I was saying about the surface of this. It has pores in it, but it does dry with a nice shine. And it's not always a bad thing when you just use the foam in the mold, but your mold has to be in pretty good condition, you know. This is what area I'm talking about here. It's nothing but the foamy bubbles on top, but when it presses against the surface of something, it gets pretty smooth. But there you go. Not too bad. Got a plastic shell, foam inside, kind of like M&M. Hard candy outside, soft chocolate inside. Yep. I'd love some M&Ms too. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the demonstration. Making the plaster didn't turn out too well. Showed you some of the other skulls that I made, and I made this one for you. It's a plastic resin shell with foam innards. I could have just left the plastic and pulled it out and had a hollow shell like this one here. This one has several layers of plastic in it though. This only has one, which it probably would have been alright. But say good night, Fred. Good night. Reminds me of the Groovy Ghoulies from the 70s. I don't know how many of you guys remember Groovy Ghoulies. Y'all have a good night.